Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming. Um, I'm going to read a brief statement, not so brief anyway, as we're required, while we're waiting for Nancy to show up. So here goes. As a preliminary matter, this is Robert Bouchard, Chairman of the Lakeville Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Joe.
Present.
Nancy. Absent. Mark.
Present.
John.
Present.
And Josh.
Present.
Okay, anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative, excuse me. Niles.
Present.
Okay. This open meeting of the Lakeville Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as responsible public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. Public is encouraged to follow along using posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before doing so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Also, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in I told you I was going to get messed up. Colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. All right. So moving on to the first agenda item, which is Pauline's Path. Actually, it's a series of 4 NOIs. And Niles, let me ask you if you have a preference, one, either to the sequence that we do them in, or to, or whether you want to just open up all 4 of them and discuss them simultaneously.
Mr. Chairman, what I was thinking would make the most sense is to discuss the subdivision, Pauline's Path in general first, which is the plan that I just shared. And then I believe we should discuss lots 2, 3, and 4 from there.
Okay.
If that's okay with the commission.
No, that's perfectly fine. So I guess at this point, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. For the record, Niles Zager from Zenith Consulting Engineers. Thanks for having me. So what we've got, I'm going to zoom in, and if I'm going too fast or too slow, please just speak up and tell me. Can everybody see me moving the cursor?
Yep.
Okay. So basically what we have is this is a 4-lot subdivision off of Howland Road. It's actually 73 Howland Road. 73 Howland Road is located here. This is going to be this was currently all one big lot, and we're looking to create this subdivision. Lots 1, lot 2, lot 3, and lot 4. Okay. And what we've proposed is we proposed the subdivision of land, it's basically a glorified common driveway, 20-foot wide access with a hammerhead turnaround at the end of the road. And that is what's gaining our access and our frontage and area for these lots. As far as this filing goes, we did file a notice of intent. The notice of intent is only the road, and the road is completely outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. The 100-foot buffer zone goes from here, it wraps down, it comes up, it's all engulfed the entire detention basin, and then it comes back. All the individual lots we'll discuss later because we filed those separately. So the only work that is being discussed right now as part of the subdivision is essentially the grading here, this infiltration basin here, and a small amount of grading here. Basically what we've done is we've created a subdivision, and we've gone through stormwater management. We're required for engineering best management practices, we're required to try to meet those standards as best as possible. Now, with 4 lots or under, stormwater management is not applicable, but we still do actually meet those standards. Without boring you with all the standards, basically what we've done is this infiltration basin, what it does is it controls a 100-year storm event. Anywhere from a 2-year, 10-year, and a 100-year storm event is analyzed. And what we've done is we've created a super elevated road, meaning it slopes from one side all the way to the other, and it's captured in this sediment forebay, this long, irregular shaped area here. That is a sediment forebay. What happens is the water first goes into that, it builds up to a certain elevation, and then what happens is during that time of detention, it's supposed to settle out a lot of the siltation that's located in that, or that's in that stormwater. Then what happens is it overtops and it goes into the actual infiltration basin, which is this area here. This area here is what we have designed for up to handle the 100-year storm event. So basically what we do is we analyze the existing conditions of the property prior to it being built, and we determine a flow rate and volume that is going off site currently and into the wetlands. And then what we have to do is once we assume the site is developed, cleared, trees taken down, grass is up, pavement, houses, driveways, things of that nature, obviously increases the amount of water that is going into this area. So that's what this infiltration basin is for. So what we do is we apply a certain infiltration rate to it, depending on what soils are out here. And that's how we determine what this is. What we've done is we've done perk tests out here for septic, and we've also done perks for the drainage. It's beautiful sands and gravels out here. So, basically it made things a little bit easier when you have that. It makes it a little more difficult than the pre-existing. There's less water that goes off, but once you get into the post, this infiltrates a lot of water here. So that's basically the deal. This area right here is what's called an emergency spillway. So if we were ever to have larger than a 100-year storm event, this would overtop and it would just go into the wetland like it is now. This is a huge, huge wetland resource area back here. This BVW is a huge wetland area. So that's where it would overtop to, and that's where it overtops to now anyway. This BVW, I should have probably said this first, but this BVW was delineated by Steven Schmiel of Hydric Solutions and located by our firm, Zenith. And this wetland comes around, it starts at Howland Road and it wraps all the way around, and then it goes further back out here. And that's really about it as far as this goes. I mean, honestly, for a subdivision, is very little work that is involved within the 100-foot buffer zone for the roadway construction. Again, there's nothing for the roadway at all. It's really just this drainage area to try to control the stormwater that's there. So I think at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Okay. Before we do the questions, let me just, I meant to say it earlier. I did a site visit today with Bob Ford, and we managed to see quite a few flags in the areas, not every square inch, but enough to convince me that what we're looking at is good. The material, he's not exaggerating. It's really good looking gravel. The change in elevation and relief, if it's not immediately obvious on the plan, it should be noted. There's some really steep slopes on the lot, and standing from even some of the highest points on the lot, you can't even with the size of the wetland that's there, you can't see any wetlands. The growth of pines and everything else is just so thick. That really impressed me. But I was satisfied again with what I saw, and I would recommend approval on this. The way we have to proceed is we have to do this by roll call. Sorry about that, but I'll just call your name, and if you have any comments or questions, if you could do it at that time, okay?
Sure.
All right, so first of all, Joe.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. I assume there's going to be a maintenance program of some sort on both the forebay and the infiltration basin.
That is correct. What I'll do is, if you don't mind, I'm going to switch over to this plan here. This is what's called the erosion control plan. So it's very similar. It's very similar as far as what you're looking at. What this does is it depicts the work limit, the silt fence or silt sock that's going to be installed within the work limit. And then what it also does is it has an erosion and sediment control notes here, talking about things to do about sediment and what to do if there's any issues. And then also has an operation and maintenance schedule as well. This is something standard that we use when we're creating a subdivision or any kind of site plan. This just kind of goes through mitigation measures, things of that nature that the contractor should follow to ensure that there's not going to be any issues on abutting properties or out on the road. There are like things, for instance, there's a tracking pad right here, this darker area that you see. This is a tracking pad for the construction trucks. So that way when they're entering and exiting, siltation is knocked off their tires and doesn't go out onto the road. But for anything that would get out into the road, there's notes in here about it being swept daily, that in order for them to make sure that there's no long-term effects to the road.
Okay, second question. You mentioned if there were a 100-year storm and the infiltration basin were to top over. We understand that the 100-year storm comes about every 12 years these days. And you don't really worry about the 100-year storm. You worry about 3 10-year storms that come all in a week. If that infiltration basin tops over and there's the overflow, what's in the material that's overflowing? Are you going to have a riprap fall somewhere to kind of trap sediment before it ends up in the wetlands, or what?
That's correct. So what we have is you have a riprap emergency over. So basically what happens is this basin is designed, like I said, to handle a 100-year storm. And what's in there is what's called a foot of freeboard. And so basically when we design the elevation, it gives an extra foot of factor of safety from the top of the berm to where the 100-year storm event would be in elevation. What we do is we set the spillway a half a foot below the top of berm. So basically what happens is you have a half a foot of lower area where it would overtop in this riprap, and then it would go out into the wetland.
Last question. Where's the water table in that area?
The water table is about, actually, hold on. I can, just bear with me. So I believe we have
I just don't remember from reviewing the plans. Where
It's
it was.
basically the wetland elevation. I believe it's elevation 60-ish, yes, 60.9. So it's it's basically the elevation of the wetland. It's about a foot below the wetland. This is what you're looking at right here is the profile of cross section of the basin. This is the sediment forebay here where it overtopped that berm. And this is the sand bottom that you would be looking at. And then we have the emergency spillway. So what we have is you have the top of berm here and the spillway here. This is a sand bottom that we like to use. It's basically a C33 sand, which is like a nice, really coarse sand. It really acts as a good filter. And the best part about it is when you need to maintain it, it's easy to maintain. You basically just bring in a little mini excavator and you can literally scrape a couple inches off the top and then it's back to new again. So that's why we use these basins, why we like these basins so much.
This has received the green light from planning board.
No, we actually have not had a planning
Haven't
board
gone there
meeting
yet?
at this time. That's correct. We have submitted, but again, obviously with everything going on, it's kind of been on. I actually don't even know when the next meeting is going to be.
Planning board did ask us.
When's the next meeting?
We don't have one scheduled right now, but it is in talks. It should be in the next couple of weeks.
Can we assume that the hammerhead ending of the road is acceptable?
No. I had some questions about that. I don't want to get into a lot of
Okay,
stuff at our meeting, but
I'm just wondering if this would change things on our end if
whether the
they
front
had to put a rotary in
or not.
cul-de-sac.
So I actually talked to the applicant today about it. And it's something that we will discuss further, but we don't know if that's going to be or not. He seemed amenable to making it a circle rather than a hammerhead, but we'll see.
But we're gonna base our decision on this, correct?
Yeah, and that shouldn't affect, I don't think that would affect too much, would it?
No,
No.
that's all work outside the 100-foot buffer zone. Even
Right.
if you were to put a circle,
Fair enough.
this would be all outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Would that, is it going to be paved or gravel?
Paved.
Would that increase the flow to the retention pond?
If we were to
Pave a
add a circle,
Yeah.
yes, it would. But this basin's over-designed, honestly. It has enough area in it that won't affect it.
Okay.
Just so the commission knows, and again, not that this matters, this is a planning board issue like you stated, but this has been done on a few other projects that we've done in the past. One of them you might recall is Julia's Way off of County down over there. That subdivision that was done, we used the hammerhead there. That was what the fire department at the time wanted. Again, but that's neither here nor there. That's why we use this. It's been a kind of a common practice for us in town, but again, it's a planning board issue. So,
And you still draw the circle, so.
the circle is there. There isn't. So the frontage is gained by the circle. This is just like any other cul-de-sac. It's just what's going on inside of here for
Right.
access.
Okay.
The
Not really.
frontage is gained by this circular cul-de-sac here.
Right, and again, I don't want to get into a lot of planning board stuff, but it becomes a math problem on whether or not the frontage from the design circle or the hammerhead is true frontage or not existing frontage. You know what I mean, Niles?
Yeah, but really, it's nothing to do with conservation.
Correct, but I mean,
Yeah.
we were just talking about it, so
I get it.
I don't want to say that it happened before and it was right to happen again if the frontage truly doesn't exist. That's the only issue, but we'll discuss that at the other meeting.
Understood completely. But again, like I said, the 100-foot buffer zone cuts right through here, right on the edge here, and then it wraps back. So even if, like we said, even if there was any changes in that roadway at all, it would not affect
Right. And
anything that we're doing for this filing.
right. So basically, to the point of this discussion, if you did need to pave that as a circle, the drainage still would handle it.
Yeah, I mean, I would obviously have to double check, but I'm fairly confident because this basin there's so much sand. The infiltration, this thing can take a lot of flow.
Okay.
So
Okay, I haven't heard, has Nancy arrived? No, no response. All right, we'll move on then. Mark, you want to take your turn?
Sure. So Niles, where that drainage and spillway are, it looks like we're wetland flags A52 and A53. How close will the grading be to the wetlands?
it's about 5 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tight.
Would you be adverse to kind of doubling up the erosion control there? Maybe
Absolutely would be a,
silt fence and the silt sock that you show on the plan until maybe you get out of the 25-foot line?
yeah, absolutely. That would be no problem at all.
And then the only other concern that I have, and I think Joe kind of touched on it, is where the spillway comes out, you show the riprap kind of cresting the top of the retention pond and out until this grade becomes steep. To me, it seems like it makes sense just to make the riprap come right down to the wetlands so that if it did overflow, it wouldn't undermine everything below the spillway.
We can do that as well. Absolutely. That's not a problem at all. We'll just extend it down the 3-to-1 slope.
That's all I was saying. Just put the riprap on top. Even if something grew up through it, I think that's just an added measure so that if a lot of water did spill out, it wouldn't just take everything below that spillway with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a problem at all.
Okay. That's all that I have.
Great.
All right, good, thanks. John?
Yeah, Niles, is this a private road?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, so so the homeowners are gonna be responsible for maintaining that spillway
Yes, sir.
drainage? How does that work? How are we assured that that's gonna be maintained?
The planning board needs to make a covenant as part of the
Okay.
approval.
Okay,
That's correct.
all right, fair enough. And obviously, like any project, once you guys get the silt fence in place, you'll notify Bob so we can take a look at it.
Oh, absolutely. That's a condition in all. I think that's a standard condition in all of your orders. So absolutely.
Okay,
And what I'd like to do is if, I'm not going to make any changes to the plan as of yet until once we hear back from planning board, we have a planning board hearing. That way we can incorporate all the changes in one,
Sure.
one revision, if that's
Yep.
okay.
fine with me.
Great.
That's all I have.
Okay, finally, Josh,
I'm all set.
you're good. Okay. All right, so any other last minute questions? Anyone need? No? I guess we're ready to take a vote then. So again, I'll have to do it by roll call. So just answer a yes or no. If whether or not you're in favor of approving and issuing an order of conditions. Joe?
Don't we need someone to make a motion first?
I guess I sort of just did, but
Oh, okay,
I'll second.
all right.
okay.
So Joe?
Okay, but we want to note in the order of conditions, the things that Niles has already agreed to.
All right.
The extension of the spillway and added silt fence.
Add silt fence. Was there anything else?
That's all that I requested.
I think overall, I make this the request for all the sites that I know typically we ask you to notify us. In this case, once construction is ready to start, once the lots are cleared, if you could notify me as well at that time, because there are a couple places I'd still like to check before actual construction starts.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So I get, and Lori is taking the minutes, so I think she'll have whatever other comments and requirements we've had. So let's try again. All, if you're in favor, say yes. Joe?
Yes?
Nancy, absent. Mark?
Yes.
Yes. And John?
Yes.
And Josh?
Yes.
Okay, so motion is approved.
So that's a motion to approve the construction of the roadway and the retention pond for Pauline's Path with the extension of the riprap and the added silt fence.
Okay,
Is that accurate motion
sounds good to me.
that we just approved?
Yep.
Very good.
All right, which lot would you like to do next? Niles?
I'm gonna jump to lot 2. Just bear with me.
Okay.
Here's lot 2, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Would you like me to get started?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. So this is lot 2. This is at the end of the cul-de-sac. And here's the 100-foot buffer zone here. It wraps right here. So as you can see, the only work that we're proposing is tree clearing and grading within this area. We are proposing a silt sock all along here and back down. What you see is obviously it's a fairly good sizable slope. It's about at least a 10-foot slope here at its minimum. So what you see is, and what we have is this area here is a 10-foot wide level spreader. And basically what that does, instead of channelizing the water, if the water comes down, it's going to be a point source discharge, and that's where you really get erosion issues. What this does is it basically it allows the water, it actually acts like an infiltration basin almost, and it's all at the same elevation. The top of berm is all at the same elevation. So if the water were to even get into here, it will fill up slowly and then over top all at the same elevation and spread it along this entire area, just like it is currently. So that's really the deal. That's what this is for. This is a sand bottom here, and then it will be loamed and seeded at the bottom of that and discharged out. So again, none of the house, septic, anything of that nature are within it. The well is outside of it as well, I believe. Where's the well? I may not seen it. Am I blind?
Down lower.
I am blind. Oh, thank you. Can't even read my own plan. The well is right here, way outside the 100-foot buffer zone as well. So yeah, that's really about it. There's no work. It's just the grading to be able to get this thing to work grade wise. There's really no choice but to do this. So that's what forces us to have this here. And that's really about it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, Joe, you want to start off?
What do you got for stabilization on that slope?
It's going to be loam and seed.
And what is the slope? What's the rate? Is that a 2-to-1?
That's a 3-to-1.
3-to-1?
Yes, sir.
Shouldn't have any problem with just loaming and seeding?
No, absolutely. Actually, no. You know what? This actually is I apologize. This is a 5-to-1 slope.
5-to-1?
Yeah, this is a 5-to-1 slope.
Okay.
I apologize. I forgot that we actually did that to make sure that it was, we had a little bit more room to work with.
I'm sure it's just a design thing and probably not within our purview, but it always makes me nervous when you see houses pushed to the back of a lot like that, because you know what goes over the edge on that slope, right? Every leaf, every lawn clipping, every branch, everything goes over the edge and down.
Understood.
Wetland.
Understood. The top, the good news is that the top of the slope is about 100 feet away. So it would be really difficult for things to get thrown all the way down here. Not saying it won't happen. I'm saying that it would be difficult.
No, I have no other questions.
Okay, thanks. Mark?
Yeah, Niles, on your erosion control plan, you actually show on the bottom left a jute mesh erosion control blanket.
Yes.
Do you actually have called that out on any of these lots in a specific location, or is that just a preventative measure that if you need to?
It's a preventative measure if you need to.
Okay.
Mainly it would be for the back end where you had concerns about the back end of the infiltration basin,
Yeah.
things of that nature, would be where we would typically use it. Usually those are only when you're using we've done them 1-to-1 slopes. 2-to-1 is kind of even pushing it. Usually 2-to-1 you can stabilize. I'm not saying you can cut it, but you can stabilize it with loam and seed. The jute mesh is more for like a 1-to-1 slope, or if you have trouble areas. So
Okay.
that's why it's there. It is exactly like you said, it's a preventative measure.
Okay. So I just want to say that I like the level spreader. I think that's a good preventative measure just to put it on the plan, and I like seeing that rather than a slope all the way down to the wetlands. So that's about a foot deep, it looks like, from the grading lines.
That's correct. This thing, the amount of water that's actually getting into that is, even though there's a big slope there, is very minimal. Because really it's really just the back end of the roof here and then here. And then everything else is going to be going around it or out to the road and captured in that our infiltration basin. So even though there's a significant slope, there's not a big watershed area that actually contributes to it.
Okay.
So this is actually way oversized, but it's a good preventative measure to protect the wetland.
Yeah. So outside of that, I have no other comments. I like that one. I like where, is that lot 2?
Yes, sir.
I like that design.
You've used this design at some of your other projects, haven't you?
Yes.
I seem to remember seeing it maybe Equestrian Way.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, especially they work really well. We use them on sites where there's significant slopes or you get really tight to something. It works really well. To try to slow down that water and not concentrate it. It does work really well.
All right, good, thank you.
Thank you.
John?
I have nothing.
All right,
Looks good.
and Josh?
Yeah, I just have one question for Niles. It's more of a generalized question. When you say you go out and locate, are you locating the wetland flags, or is that done by the wetland scientist?
No, our survey company locates the wetland flags. So when they're out there, they're locating the wetland flags, not only for location, but for elevation. And they're also tying down the property and things of that nature as well. So this is all done with survey equipment. And they're locating these things fairly accurately.
Okay, can you speak to the accuracy? I know sub 3 meters, it might be standard from what I read, but is that roughly what it is?
No, it's a lot more accurate than that. So
Okay.
that's if you're using like a GPS unit and you're in like a really heavy coverage and you're trying to use satellites to try to locate them. And you have a heavy wood cover, a canopy. That's when it becomes difficult. These are done with a total station, a robot. These things are accurate to within 1/100th of an inch.
Oh, perfect.
Now again, when we're locating a wetland flag, we're not as accurate as we would be if it was a property line, just for the fact of it's a flag hanging off of a tree. So when you're locating them, it's you're within probably a couple tenths to a half a foot.
All right, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm all set, Bob.
Okay, thanks. All right, I guess that's everyone. Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve lot 2 with the board's standard conditions.
Okay.
Second, John
Motion.
LeBlanc.
No other discussion then? All those in favor? Oh, no, I can't do that. I'm sorry. Old habits die hard. Joe?
Yes.
Mark?
I approve, yes.
Okay. John?
Yes.
And Josh.
Yes.
That was easy. Okay. So the motion passes. And we'll move on to the next lot.
Right.
Is this 3 now?
This is lot 3, that's correct. Here we go. So yeah, this is lot 3. This is the lot directly that abuts lot 2, obviously. This one is the only piece that actually had a portion of a home within the 100-foot buffer zone. So the 100-foot buffer zone wraps around, it cuts just through this garage here. The rest of the house is all outside of it. And then just like we talked about before, this is basically just that slope with that level spreader. There's a portion of that comes onto this property. So there will be the clearing here along with the silt sock for erosion control. And there's a small portion of the driveway that's located here. All this work over here was associated with the original filing of the roadway. So that's really exempt from this filing. So the only work that you're really looking at here is this driveway, small portion of the garage, and this work on this level spreader and grading here. Septic system and well are all outside of it, the majority of the house. This is a walkout basement. So basically what we have is we have a terraced wall here. In order to have this, so basically what that does is it minimizes the amount of fill that needs to be brought in or brought out, I should say. And there is a retaining wall, small stone retaining wall here at the end of the driveway to make the grading work. Because there is a zone, a flood zone that basically runs right along this erosion control and then back out. It's this dotted dashed line that I'm kind of following here. And it wraps around back. So there is no work within that flood zone. The only work that we're associated with is the BVW. That's really about it. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, let's start off with Joe.
This is a garage under, right?
That is correct.
Because the slab for the garage floor is the same elevation as the cellar. And I
Yeah.
notice also too, and this is sort of a general comment on the 4 lots, is, you know, you always show paved area for the driveway, but we know that there's always going to be paved area for walkways and such, but you don't know where those are going to end up, so you never draw them in, right?
That is correct.
And that's probably a minimal addition to impervious area anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, these houses are a fairly good sized house that we've drawn on here. We always do that, so it gives the people that might be purchasing the lot or the builder room to build a good sized home. If they build something smaller, which is, if it's the developer that is currently doing it, they usually build a smaller colonial. This is a 30 by 40 with a 26 garage with a 18 by 18 bump out on the left side here, right here. This is an 18 by 18 foot bump out here. So it's very good size home that's shown on here. So this gives them plenty of extra. So basically what would happen is if this house was, if this house were to be smaller, you'd give you a lot more extra capacity in this basin as well.
What's the retaining wall construction going to consist of?
Most likely it's going to be a stone wall or like a ready block wall.
Ready block, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Those seem to be the most feasible, for situations like this.
Same thing with that little zigzag retaining wall over at the corner.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
How tall?
This is only a couple feet high, so this might be
only a couple of feet high, yeah.
Yeah.
And how
This
about
one we did a terrace wall. This one we did a terrace wall to try to keep the height down, because anything over, I believe it's 4 feet, you need a fence. So we, that's why we terraced it there.
Okay. No other questions?
Right, just a follow-up on that. Niles, do you ever get requests by any other towns that you specify the nature of walkways, whether it's cement, pavers?
No, I usually don't. It's so minimal. And again, in this situation, it would be completely outside the buffer zone.
Mhm.
But it's usually so minimal that we don't. If that's something that the commission would like to see, we can. But honestly, that's something that gets changed so much in the field that it's, it'd be difficult to try to manage on our end.
Yeah, it would be a tiny percentage of the impervious area that's being added anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
The reason I asked the question is on occasion in the past where we had some really critical areas, we did specify, especially for work that was done on alongside on a bank, adjacent to a pond, definitely inside the BVW.
It makes sense. Yeah, no, I can completely agree with that. And I think if it's an area that's on Long Pond or Assawamsett or within a critical area, then I could absolutely see the commission wanting a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah. All right. We'll do that on a case-by-case basis, I think. All right. If there's no other questions, then do we have a motion?
I just had one or two questions, if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
I can see the well is outside the buffer zone and
Yes, sir.
it's up gradient of the level spreader. Do you know what the order of construction would be? Are the wells going to go in first, or will they do a lot of that grading first?
I think they're going to have to do a lot of the grading first. There's a lot of material that needs to be moved around on this site, just for the sheer fact of the existing grades out there.
It looks very undulating in the cross sections, and
It is.
yeah.
There's no question about it. There was a lot of gravel that was mined out of this site back many years ago, with some very excessive slopes on there. But now again, there's a lot of material that's still there that we're going to utilize for the property itself. But yeah, before they really do too much, the process of the construction is going to have to be, start the roadway, get that to grade, and then construct that basin right after and get that constructed so that way water is starting to shed towards it once you start creating your lots and grading your lots off.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really have no other comment. I was going to, actually, I had a lot of concern about lot 3, but because the drainage easement became part of the roadway discussion, kind of cleared that up.
Yes.
Sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to jump ahead. I kind of lost my place.
No worries.
All right. So who's next? John,
Nothing.
you're
You
good.
just covered it.
And Josh,
All set.
good. All right. So then, now do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the notice of intent, issue an order of conditions for lot 3 of Pauline's Path.
Second.
Motion is seconded. Roll call. Joe?
Yes.
Yes. Mark?
I approve.
John?
Yes.
And Josh?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. And we move on to lot 4.
All right, this one should be the easiest one. So this one has frontage both on Pauline's Path and on Holland Road. We're calling it, we're showing the way it lays out is it just lays out better to have it facing on Holland Road. Realistically, the wetland is completely off of this property, off of this lot. There's no wetland, BVW, anything on this property, no flood zone, nothing of that nature. The buffer zone, the 100-foot buffer zone runs through here and it wraps out and comes out this way. Basically what you see here is this was an existing low area through here. It's very flat. It was where material might have been mined out at one point, and it kind of became just a low area. And what's happening is when we regrade this site, this area, this low area, if when we do our drainage calculations, this low area was going to overtop and go into the neighboring property if we didn't do anything with it. So what we've done is we've created this little grading. I don't want to call it a level spreader because it's not a level spreader. It's almost like an infiltration basin that we're basically pulling water up and making sure that within the 100-year storm, that it will not be affecting any abutting properties. So realistically, the only work within the buffer zone is just small portion of grading and clearing right here. That's it. Everything else, the house, the septic, the well, everything is outside of the driveway. Everything is outside of that 100-foot buffer zone. So that's about it for this one. This one, honestly, it probably could have been done with an RDA, but we did them all just because we were doing them all simultaneously. We just figured it would be easier to do an NOI on it. I'd be happy to answer any questions for anybody.
All right, let's start off. Joe?
No questions.
All right. Still no Nancy, huh? She hasn't come in. All right. Mark?
No, I'm good on this one. It's very clean.
Very good. And John?
Same, I'm fine.
Josh?
All set.
Good. Niles, you wore everybody down.
Oh man, I wore myself down.
Will you accept the motion, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I will.
A motion to approve the notice of intent, issue an order of conditions for Lot 4 of Pauline's Path as noted on the plan,
Okay,
Second.
With our usual conditions.
Second?
with the standard conditions, yeah.
Standard. Okay. Very good. If you're in favor, say yes. Joe?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
John?
Yes,
And Josh?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, did we get a second on that?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
All right. I guess that does it for Pauline's Path. Are you all set?
I'm all set. If you guys don't have any more questions for me, I'll leave you guys be.
Oh, fine. If you want to desert us, that's
Thanks for making the
okay.
drive tonight.
Yeah, it was a long drive. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, I should have a signature pages for you after tomorrow. So we'll get that out to you.
Great.
And our next meeting,
Yes.
tentatively scheduled for May 12th. I don't have a confirmation on it yet, but are you still planning on doing, what is it, 85?
That's correct. I have 85 Howland Road on there. That's correct.
Okay. All right. So as soon as we know for certain, I'll let you know.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much, everyone.
have a good night, Niles.
All right.
You as well. Take care, guys.
Careful driving home.
I'll try.
All right. Next on the agenda then is Betty's Neck. We finally have a revised list of special conditions. What we need to do is vote to approve the order of conditions and have you come in for signatures later this week, if we're all in agreement. We've had some back and forth on the order of conditions. I've listened to everyone's comments. I've tried to incorporate as many as I can. I've read the most recent revised list to the applicant, and he is satisfied with it, has no problems, no issues. So if there's any discussion, let's take care of that before we vote on accepting or issuing an order of conditions.
So I think most of that discussion, we had the back and forth in the email, was regarding potential vernal pool.
Right, and that's since been removed.
Yeah.
And let me explain why,
Go ahead.
if that was going to be your question. The location was misidentified. We had talked to the applicant's engineer about it, and there was some confusion. We were under the impression it was to the rear of the garage, but we misread the plan, and it actually is a topographic high, not a depression. And so, and they were looking at a small area adjacent to the garage, but off the property, so it doesn't even show up. So it was just some confusion.
Okay.
And so we straightened that out.
Well, I'd still like to briefly speak to that for the sanctity of the vernal pool thing. I'm not against protecting them as much as just because it wasn't certified. I don't want to impose those regulations on somebody, but I certainly wouldn't be opposed to you, being the advocate for the board, the agent, to kind of mediate that so that if they wanted to go within what would be considered a buffer zone, even if it was unregistered,
Mhm.
I think I'd be amenable to it and kind of treating it like a quasi wetland, even if it wasn't registered. I just don't want us to be imposing it like fact.
Mhm.
If there was, I think they're easily identifiable if it's wet or not.
Yeah.
I just think, especially at the applicant's request, if they wanted to do work within the area, that maybe we ask for the silt fence and treat it similar, but not force it. Or not ban them from that area.
Oh, no, that certainly wasn't the intent. The location I had in mind was so close to the wetland line itself that it seemed sense to me that we should just lump them together, rather than call it out. But anyway, we managed to get it resolved, and with a couple of other issues, moving some flags, as you probably saw, and so I'm satisfied with the list we have now. I was hoping, well, does anyone have any, before I launch into something else, questions or comments on it?
Yeah, they're already doing some tree cutting and stump removal on that property?
All right, yeah, that's what I was going to hold off on, but I'll go ahead. And I wish Nancy was here because she's the one who first noticed it when she was driving by. She went in, looked at the lot, and saw that they had pretty much clear cut the entire area. And this was before, obviously, before we gave them the order of conditions. We did tell them they could cut 1 or 2 trees for to alleviate access to the well, to the proposed well site, and to do some minor grading if the road wasn't passable. But that was it. But they really took that to mean, no, they can go ahead and cut whatever they wanted. And so she arrived and saw that there was this huge lot now that was pretty much clear cut, not stumped, but logged. And so she called me, let me know. I went out there and observed the same thing. Called the applicant, and he said, and I had just spoken to him a couple days before, and he said nothing about it. Everything was okay. And I said, "What are you doing?" We were shocked to see the degree. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, but the engineer and the contractor got carried away. They told me this, that, and the usual excuses." I said, "Well, bottom line, you cut all these trees prior to getting the order of conditions. Yes, we probably would have allowed you to do that, but you still did it without authorization." So he apologized up and down, etc. But there's no one doing it now. I mean, the damage has been done, unfortunately. And there are a couple of places where they did cut trees that were right up against the wetland itself, and they hadn't extended the flags or the hay bales yet. Not the flags, the silk curtain, and they were really in a sensitive area. So that was disappointing to see that. So the way I left it with him is, don't do anything at all on the site until you hear from us with an order of conditions. He knows about the meeting tonight, and I said, don't cut any more trees, don't add or take away any fill, don't do anything. And he promised not to. So Joe, I'm sorry, I kind of stole your thunder. Have you seen any changes since?
Yeah, so that's why I was asking. I was wondering why he was going ahead working without an order of conditions.
When were you there last?
What's today? Today is Tuesday, Saturday morning.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was there Friday. They weren't working, were they?
Nope, there's nothing going on there. Well,
Okay.
this was 9 o'clock in the morning.
All right. Yes. So you probably saw the same thing I
I saw
did
the
then.
same thing you saw.
Yeah. All right. And I thought we'd been pretty flexible with them. We did issue them the emergency cert to put the well in,
Right.
and they sort of took advantage of us.
Is there anything that they've done that we wouldn't have allowed?
Probably some of the cutting down near the sensitive wetland edge.
Yeah, I think we would have asked for a more specified edge of work, edge of tree line, that kind of thing. And there's still some ongoing discussion with the Board of Health as to where the septic system's going.
Oh,
Oh,
It's outside the wetland, but that's still an ongoing issue as far as I know.
so it should be made abundantly clear to the applicant that if as he's going ahead in production of this piece of property, that he should be staying in close contact with the various boards in town.
Yes, and I've spoken to Nate as well and cautioned him so that he's aware of, and he's familiar with the contractor and knows to be careful.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Nope.
No. All right. Let's do a simple vote then on whether or not we want to approve the order of conditions. So all those in favor of issuing an order of conditions, well, not all of those, but if you are, please say so. Joe?
Yes.
Okay. Nancy's not here. Mark?
Yes.
John?
yep.
And Josh?
Yes.
Okay. So it's it's approved, and I will write up the signature page, and you can come into the vestibule just like for the other locations and sign it after. Well, probably by tomorrow afternoon, I should have the
You
list.
want to
ready.
have Laurie just shoot us an email when it's ready?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
And then you can just sign. You're going to have a number of things to sign. There'll be the
Yep.
4 things from tonight, and if you haven't already, the signatures for Betty's Neck and for the one we're going to talk about next, 12 Village Road. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So
12 Village.
why don't we do that? 12 Village Road is a certificate of compliance. This has been around for a while. I've re-inspected the property. Everything is done to satisfaction, and I don't see any reason not to approve it. So let's just do it the simple way. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
I don't think anyone will shoot to kill if we approve it that way. So motion carries, and I'll issue that certificate. All right. What remains? Okay, just a couple of informational items. Highland Road and County Street. There's actually two different filings, two different projects ongoing here. Of course, you recall 141 County Street. That's the 2 silos and the
Big
barn
garage.
issue. Okay. They All right. I don't have anything from them yet. I'm told by the engineer from Outback that they are proposing some revisions, but I haven't seen them yet. So I had expected to. That's why it's on my list. But as the other part of that property, Lot 3, that's the one we had a hearing on a while back. There was originally an ADRAD, and it's for a residence in that back corner of, you know where I'm talking about?
Yep.
We actually stopped them from doing. They
Yes.
stopped clearing it, yeah.
Yeah, it's clearing the trees.
Right.
They want to revise that plan. And I'm told that it's a minimal. They want to move the house a few feet in one direction. And she said there are a few other minor changes, but I don't have anything in writing. She did send me a plan, but the print on it was so small I can't even make it out. So I've asked for a full size. And so until I get it, I can't really comment on it. But once I get it, I'll let you know that's on the way.
Okay.
All right. What else? One of our favorite sites, Joshua Lane.
Joshua Lane. I was up there a couple days ago.
Yeah, me too. It seems like hardly a day goes by that I don't run out there. The last time I went out, for those of you that aren't familiar with this has been an ongoing issue ever since they moved into these locations. How many years ago?
Oh, half a dozen anyway.
Oh, yeah. All right, that sounds about right. Joshua Lane is off of Race Course, if you're not familiar with it.
Mhm.
And there are two neighbors, two abutters that have been duking it out all this time, whether or not the fence is on the wrong property, whether or not they're filling or cutting or working in the wetlands. And so that's why we've been going back and forth every time there is a complaint or an accusation. Finally, I think the resolution is going to come where we require one of the parties to file an RDA that just speaks to whether or not there is a wetland issue. And that's the only way we're gonna resolve it. Otherwise, they're gonna keep duking it out back and forth. And it's for the most part, it's a civil matter. Whether or not the fence is on the property, whether or not water was discharged, and all of that is outside the wetland area. I brought a tape out there when I went last week. I measured it myself from the edge of the wetland, and I came up with 106 feet to
Beautiful.
where the rear of the property is, where the end of the fence is, and any work that was done by the abutter. So they are, for that work, they're definitely outside of our jurisdictional area. So what remains is the fence issue, and that, like I said before, that's a civil matter. So I'll let them argue it out.
Okay.
But we're going to get an RDA from someone there.
Yes, probably from 7 Joshua, the people who called us originally because of the complaints that they received. The people who actually put up the fence. All right, so that's Highland, that's Joshua. And I have 2 sets of meeting minutes, December 10th and January 14th. Have you had a chance to look at them?
I did.
Yep.
I don't know that I received them. When did we receive those?
Last week with, I can look real quick to see what it was coupled with. They were at the bottom of the email.
Yeah. Well, since there's only, Josh, are you still with us? Did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
All right. Did you see the meeting minutes?
Yeah, I got them in my email. Yep.
Okay, so that's 3. That's fair enough.
They were, last Thursday, we received them, Joe. They
Okay.
were along with
The agenda?
the agenda and the Zoom information.
Okay, I must have missed that, but if you
Right.
guys looked them over, didn't see anything wrong.
We can wait next time if you want, or we can just
No,
go.
that's okay, as long as someone else has put an eyeball on them.
All right, so all those in favor of approving minutes for December 10th?
Sure, yes.
Aye.
Aye? All
Okay.
right,
Do you want me to make an official motion?
go ahead.
Motion to approve the December 10th minutes as drafted for 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. January 14th.
I motion to approve the January 14th minutes as drafted for 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. So I guess that does it, unless someone else has any comments.
I hope Laurie can follow all this. All those ayes.
I have to say, she did a really good job of drafting those minutes. That was the 57 Long Point Road minutes for
Right.
both meetings.
Yes,
And she was very accurate. I thought she did a good job.
good.
So I'll do it.
Motion to adjourn.
You beat me. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you all for your patience.